The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Let's listen as Lorraine LaPointe, coach, therapist, educator, speaker, and founder of Head Heart Synergy, brings together another enlightened guest to inspire and motivate us to move forward, achieve our dreams and desires, so that we experience midlife awakening.
And I'm your host, Lorraine LaPointe. Today we'll enjoy another candid conversation that reveals how to bring back a sense of balance and how to find forward focus. Today, take just a few moments to join us as we explore the possibilities and the perspectives that provide us with greater inner peace, power, passion, and purpose. Because that's what I call living at the edge of fulfillment in a midlife awakening.
Well, hello and welcome. Today's guest is someone who knows that your brain can be your best friend or your nemesis, and how sometimes the very best thing that you can do in life is to get out of your own way. And I'm excited to invite you today to use your brain. So if you'll take a little exercise with me, a little walk with me. So go ahead and put on your light jacket. Throw on your rubber boots to take a little walk. And imagine as we find ourselves enjoying a beautiful day, wandering through a wide open field, long golden grass. And as we move along easily, we're laughing and telling our stories and enjoying the fresh air. And we can see the birds flying way up overhead, over high. And we're in the middle of a particularly juicy story when suddenly you step down and there's that sucking, sploshing, squishing sound. Yeah. You stepped into a quagmire, a thick, boggy mug. Surprised, of course, you naturally do what everyone does, and you pull hard at your feet. And you try to get that foot free, but the sticky mud matches your efforts and seems to pull you in further. And inevitably, there it is, the whisper of those critical voices in your mind, asking you questions like, how could you be so stupid? Why weren't you watching where you were going? Who do you think you are? You look ridiculous. This is so embarrassing. This is just awful. And then so you try again and again. And the harder you pull, the more you get stuck, and you get that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach as you realize that, you're well and truly stuck. And that this is going to require a creative solution. Well, this story and the situation, as you probably guessed, is a metaphor for life. And of course, there are times when everyone encounters resistance to our efforts to move forward. We take a wrong turn or we make a tough decision that turns out differently to what we expect. And then we wind up experiencing what feels to us like thick mud. If you've ever been there, you know what I mean. Sometimes in life, the harder we try to get out, or the more we try to move past something, the more we get sucked into it. And the negative voices in our mind begin that chatter. And so the situation becomes tougher. The struggle results in us feeling, angry, frustrated, exhausted. And there's the inevitable self-criticism. Because people like us, we tend to work hard, we give tons, we're working more and more, we get lots of effort in our life. Good morning, Angeline. And of course, sometimes that relates to emotional pain because we end up with self-doubt, disappointment. The outward focus creates a little bit of worry and a sense of helplessness, even a panicky feeling as we wonder if life will ever move us forward again. Like, can you ever become carefree like everyone else ever again? So in today's show, we're going to talk about what do you do when you feel truly stuck? You know, what happens when you're stopped in your tracks, blocked or stymied in some way, whether creatively, emotionally, financially? And our guest today understands all about being stuck, needing to fulfill creative solutions. Like many, she's experienced some lows of being in the boggy bits, and today she's no longer in the bog. And she'll share how she found ways to move forward, because today's show is talking about getting out of your own way. So we're good to see you, Angeline from New York. And hi, Angela, how are you doing? Thank you. Great comments. I really appreciate seeing everybody online. So I'm really glad that you're here with us for this episode of Edge of Fulfillment. And good morning, John. For those who haven't met me before, by the way, my name is Lorraine LaPointe, and you can think of me as your guide. I help women who feel like they're standing in a bog. They're stuck between something they've survived and where they feel that they were meant to be in this life. I use my own personal boggy bits to help others discover that there's opportunity in the obstacles, especially when you align your head and your heart so that you can move forward. And of course, you might already know that my company is Head Heart Synergy, and that we reach out every week through this network, the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV. And we are broadcasting in all kinds of different places through the magic of social media. And as we enjoy this magic, whether you're here live or you've discovered us a little later on, we invite you to engage, as John and Angeline and Angela just have done. Connect with us. Together, we're creating an inspiring, safe, and sacred place to explore different ways of living with greater peace, power, passion, and purpose. Oh, and that's my definition of pulling my foot out of the mud. So if you're feeling stuck in the mud today, or if you're smoothly moving along, good morning, Sheila. Whether that I hope you're enjoying the journey. Either way, this program is for you, because as human beings, I believe that we're all on the edge of fulfillment, and some of us have moved just beyond the edge. So whenever you find that there's something in our conversation today that you find interesting or that you want to know more about, be sure to let us know what that is. Good morning, Ruth. Love you too. That's my sister. Because in this show, I really want to get to know you. I feel that the better we understand you and what inspires and motivates you, the more we can offer really interesting ways to dig into interesting topics and find that fulfillment that we crave. If you're watching, simply add your comments and questions on the side. Or if you're listening, you could also send an invitation to friends and family and have them enjoy this episode as we all explore getting out of our own way. And I want to acknowledge, as always, our producer, Roxy, and thank her for all the work that we don't see that she's doing behind the scenes. She's the one putting up the comments and queuing up your questions. So we love to answer your questions, by the way. So if you have one, just put a hashtag and the word question, and then you can help us to shape this program into something that's more interesting for you, so that you can stay open to the possibilities. Oh, there's that word. Okay, let me tell you about another thing. We have another opportunity this week to win the weekly contest for the draw for the Amazon gift card. And this week it's sponsored by our guest's company, Holly Herlocker Coaching. And so simply listen throughout the broadcast for 5 inspirational words. And then near the end, we'll ask you to put those 5 words into the chat or email them to me. And I'll give you the email at the end so that you're eligible for the draw. And then we randomly draw our winner, and we'll announce the winner next week. Like last week's winner was Jessica Sneed, who is receiving a wonderful prize from our last week's guest, Tara Green from TaraTarot.com. So you've already heard the first word for today, and the first word is possibilities. Something that you gain with an open mind as you practice the creativity of finding solutions through a daily mental fitness practice, as you exercise your brain. So keep track of this first one. The first word is possibilities. Don't put it in the chat yet. Wait till the end. And so go ahead and jot that down, because typically many of us, and through no fault of our own, sometimes we get stuck in that mud. We get worried, we get panicked, and we lose sight of all that's possible for us. And so now I'd like to give your brain just a little time to think as you're listening to The Edge of Fulfillment on W4WN. That's the Women for Women Network, Talk for TV. And stay tuned as we connect with our guest. We'll be right back after this short break.
Did you know video is the future on content? There are 3 good reasons why video is the future of content. Number 1, videos are often more engaging than simple pictures or music alone. Number 2, it's much easier to tell your story through video. Number 3, because we love to watch video, they go viral much faster. Hey, notice you're still watching right now. See how well it works. Next time we can play your video here instead. Ask me how. Shine online on Talk 4 TV and W4WN Radio.
Hey, are you looking for a brighter future? Wishing for greater calm, clarity, and confidence? What if you knew an inside job was the answer? Your mission: stop the inner burn, gain mental fitness so you get more out of life. Imagine in about 15 minutes a day for just 6 weeks. Come on, we'll show you how. Don't miss it. Just go to www.lorraine.gives/M-Fitness and join us right now.
Hey, welcome back. For those that are just joining us, let's do a quick recap. We're running a contest this week to win an Amazon gift card, and it's sponsored by our guest, Holly Herlocker Coaching. We've already heard the first of the 5 secret, special words that you'll need to put in the comments at the end of the show in order to be eligible for the draw. And remember, don't add the word yet. As a reminder, the first word we heard was possibilities. So now listen for the other 4 words as we continue on the edge of fulfillment here on W4WN, the Women for Women Network Radio and Talk for TV. And I want to welcome today's guest. Coach Holly Herlocker works with creative professionals who feel like they're sometimes stuck in the mud of life or their careers. And when you've lost your sparkle through helping so many others find theirs, then Holly can help you improve what you do and how you feel, and so that you get more inspired and feel more productive. And I'd like to welcome our guest, Holly Herlocker. There she is. Hey, Holly, it's great to have you.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Lorraine.
Yeah, so I understand you've experienced times in your life where you felt like the metaphor, like you felt stuck in the bog or the mud. And I'm wondering where you'd like to start your story for our viewers and listeners.
Well, sometimes I think, we get stuck in that quicksand, mud, gunk, once a day, or, there'll be long periods of life. And then there's oh my gosh, I can't get out of my own way right now. So, yeah, I mean, I think it happens to all of us. And it certainly happened to me. I guess I'll start jump into where I was about 30, and my husband and I were trying to get pregnant and found out we couldn't. And I had been in a job that I had become really good at, but it was naturally not suitable for me. It was like an assistant organizing, very left brain, logical kind of role. And I'm very creative and just different. So I was good at my job. I'd been there a long time, but it felt like it was just a wrong fit and wasn't a super healthy environment. And so I had kind of been doing this thing that we all do. You're like, ooh, when the circumstance of life changes, I'm going to be happy. Then I'll be there. Then I'll be like, I will have arrived or something totally arbitrary and not true at all. So I thought, well, then I'll be able to leave work, or I'll something will change. And we couldn't get pregnant. And so I was like, that's it. I'm done with this job. And I left school. I left there and I went back to school and went to art school for a second bachelor's degree. And it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made, but was very much one of those situations of like, I don't know if I want to say turning lemons into lemonade, but it was such a hard time. And I'm like, oh no, I'm making something good out of this. And anyway, so I went back to school and it was wonderful. And I basically kind of fell in love with the creative mind. I have ADD. I've always kind of struggled with being able to stay focused and have a lot going on. Like, I don't know, most of us have that chatter. I mean, we have a human brain. So, when I was in school, though, I found so much joy and peace in creating. And so I remember like laying in my studio one day, like just writing, like, I am so in love with life. And, the parallels, though, are things like I was looking at trees or the shadow on a desk in a way that, from an artist's mind, like, in a way that, really appreciated where we are and where you are, you know what I mean, in the moment, and observing and just being still and present. And so I had a lot of that going on in my life. And anyway, I've carried that on into coaching now. I was a graphic designer, or I guess I still am, independently for 6 years now. So, yeah, but I could have stayed in, I say it all the time, I could have stayed in art school forever and just studied everything. And I just loved it so much.
Well, you've mentioned that you felt like a screwdriver for your clients for a while. Was that in your previous job? And you said you fell out of love with what you were doing and would rather do the create on demand life. So that sounds like the story that you were just telling us. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your comment about that screwdriver.
Yeah. So I think a lot of creative professionals, our clients are used to going, here's what I want, and can you do this? And sometimes they negate that the person they're giving it to is full of ideas and maybe new to the industry or new to the product or new to whatever you're selling, but is well-versed in connecting like the familiar with the novel and making it special for your company. And so sometimes clients will say, oh no, I really need this to be in the shape of this state with a purple heart because my wife loves purple. And, these things that really cut the design short. And I'm here to say, you hire the professional, to use this creative mind, get out of your preconceived vision, because more it could exist. So I think from that regard, and creative professionals know what I'm talking about, that's usually when the client thinks that they know a little bit more than you, or knows what they want and they don't want anything else added to it, kind of stuck in their mud. But we feel
in their little box, right?
Yes.
It has to be so big and so wide.
Exactly. And purple, please.
Yeah. Oh,
but it's another way that we feel like we get stuck. We make ourselves feel like a screwdriver because we take the creativity out. We think they don't want creativity, I'm not going to give it. And I've had some of these situations where when I have the right mindset and I'm creating from, okay, well, what's possible to do with this? I can make the purple heart in the box look pretty darn good with the state and all that. Like, or we get there. It's a dance. But a lot of pros will get frustrated and get tired of feeling that way and think, I need a higher end client and all this. But we have to be doing our highest work
Yeah,
It's like
what I
that.
hear what I hear you saying is they really need to give you permission, or they need permission to be creative
Yes.
in their work. And actually, that is a second word that our listeners can jot down, because that's a second word that's special today, is the word permission. Because I think
Absolutely.
that's what I was hearing you say, is give permission to be not
Yeah, well,
inside the
give
box.
yourself permission to, if you're feeling stuck, to be where you are with your emotions and with your story. Because when we should ourselves, we're shooting, saying, oh, I should be doing this. I should be earning more money. I should weigh this much. I should blah, 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 blah. We're wasting a lot of energy on what is not. And even if you're in an emotion, like most recently for myself, the feeling of defeat, you have a failure or a mistake and then that's a real or not real. It's all about your mind. That's how you just perceive it. But you have a mistake and you think, oh my gosh, and start feeling defeat. And I don't want to feel defeat. I'm just blah, blah. So you argue, right. We're not really good at managing our emotions as humans. We're really good at shoving it down or shoving things in our mouth, avoiding it, numbing it, rather than just going, ooh, I feel defeat right now. And I have this story playing,
I'm wondering, when I'm resonating exactly with what you're talking about in terms of defeat. And can you think of a time when you maybe thought you made a mistake, but it was like the best mistake you ever made?
Oh, man. I think that with so many things in art, at least in creating, there are these happy accidents all the time. Yeah. And I mean, like it's possible. So there's a parable, and you've probably heard it. A man with a stallion, and he loves the stallion, and it's beautiful. And so he takes it to the county fair and wins first place.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes home with his stallion, and his neighbors come and they say, congratulations, what a wonderful thing that you won first place. Your stallion is so beautiful. And he's like, well, we don't know what's good and we don't know what's bad. And they're like, well, that's a weird answer. Okay. Then someone comes along and steals the stallion. And his neighbors come back and they're like, oh no, what can we do? And again, he says, we don't know what's good or what is bad. And they're going, okay, crazy.
It's a strange response.
I know, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so then the horse breaks out from his captors and makes his way home. And on the way, wild mares follow him. So he comes back home and he's got all these beautiful wild mares that are going to come and add to the farm, add to this,
so it's good news.
It's good news again. And the neighbors come and they're like, oh my goodness, your horse is back with even more beautiful horses. What a blessing. Again, with the response, we don't know what is good and what is bad. And they're like, oh my gosh, this guy. So then his son goes and he is working with these wild mares, trying to tame them, and falls off and breaks his leg. Well, again, this is his able-bodied son, his only child, and he's lost him working with these horses. And so the neighbors bring him lunch and food and condolences and what can we do? And he's like, we don't know what is good or bad. Here we go again.
You're kind of wondering if he has anything else to say.
Right. But you can see already this is right. So then the son, how in the world could this be good? Well, there's a war coming and the embassy sends all these people to come collect or, get the able-bodied young men to come and work for him or go into war. And here we have broken leg son who can't. Who knows what is good or bad, right? That's.
I guessed you were going to say he said that.
So these great things come out of messes that didn't feel like a mess. Like at the time, you're like, how in the world and ho hum. But that's what our brains are wired to do, right? They're wired to be completely negative. They're wired to find the problems. I mean, that's what the lizard brain does. So it's looking for problems.
That's those whispers in the back of your mind, right? That ask you
Right.
nasty questions and make suggestions that things are awful and life is falling apart. And as your
Totally.
story clearly shows, sometimes things appear to be, difficult and awful. And then if you look at them in a different perspective,
Mhm.
then you see them from in a different light. And actually, that's a third word, is the word that our listeners and viewers can jot down, and that's the word perspective.
Yes. And this is such an important word, because your perspective is everything. It's everything. It's like your thoughts create your reality. It's more than just an attitude that other people can read. You're right. Like, I think I've always think, well, it's your attitude that matters. You hear these statements about it's 90% of attitude. Well, that's not just for what the impression you make on other people. It's for your whole existence. We have 11 different cognitive biases. So our reticular activating system is looking to prove us right in ways we can't even imagine. And so it's constantly going, yep, see that everything's screwed up, everything's going to work, blah, 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 because it's wired for the negative.
There's that stuck in the mud.
Stuck in the mud. There you go. Lizard brain puts us right back in the mud. But so having that thinking, getting in control and opening self up to possibility, giving yourself permission to play, to be where you are and feel how you feel, and have the struggle and be like, oh, okay. It's amazing what happens when you're with your emotions and you find the thought that causes them. It's like, oh, well, if I wasn't judging myself, like I would never judge another human, or, you know what I mean? Saying things to myself that I would never say to another human. Maybe I wouldn't feel like I was defeated.
I really love that question to ask myself at times, like, who made that rule? Like when you say to yourself, I have to do something. So you're stuck in the mud. I have to pull my foot out. I have to pull really hard. Well, who made that rule?
And hey, the best way to get out of quicksand is kind of lay down in it. Right?
Yes. like the stallion story. Sometimes we have to surrender,
Yes.
to what's going on. Yeah.
Because what is what is. And like Byron Katie says, anytime we reject reality or we don't want to be where we are, we guarantee suffering, and we lose. You argue with reality, you lose 100% of the time. So good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm thinking that our viewers and our listeners are probably resonating with this, and they probably have a lot of stories of their own about how they got stuck somehow and needed to surrender, needed to get creative in order to get themselves out. Holly, one of the things that we do, and I would invite our listeners, by the way, if that story does come to you, go ahead and pop a line or two in the chat. I'd love to hear. What we normally do on the show at some point is we pull an oracle card and see what the universe has to say to us today. So I'm wondering, are you comfortable with that? Would you like to do that?
I'm ready to hear from the universe.
Yeah. So I'm just going to pick up my cards and shuffle, and then you tell me when to stop.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. And here it is. Oh my goodness. Okay. Call of the Muse. I don't know if you can see that. It's a beautiful card with a dancer on it. So Call of the Muse. We were just talking about creativity, weren't we?
Yes. Love the Muse.
Now, of course, it says when you feel the call of the Muse, you're invited to be creative. I love how the fact that the cards seem to always align.
I know.
Amazing. So while the process feels intensely personal, your ego and self-identification are, ironically, unnecessary part of the equation. You might think you own the magic of creativity, but simply imagine your creativity stemming from another guide or a muse, because the muse needs you to open your heart to let the magic flow. See yourself as a partner in creative dance. Today, your muse is calling you to be a channel to allow the creative energy to flow through you. Your muse knows where this is all meant to go.
That is
And
so
that,
good. That is
isn't that
perfect for
awesome?
us, Lorraine.
It is. It's perfect for what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And this is why I love this deck of cards, by the way. This is called the Oracle of the Energies. And I just love this deck of cards. But at this point, what I'd love to do is take a little break and let our listeners just take a little ear break. And we will be right back with Holly Herlocker. Or not.
Mental fitness, the missing X factor for enhancing performance, achievement, and success. Mental fitness empowers you with the magic of 3: stabilized mood, peace of mind, deeper relationships. Time to make it happen? Grow the self-command muscle. Intercept your self-defenses. Build your inner wisdom. In less than 15 minutes a day, gain the missing X factor. Let me show you how.
Welcome back. And I just love technology when it works, and when it doesn't, we're always so surprised. And I was just thinking during the break, isn't that like the stallion story? We never know why things happen or what the purpose is behind them. And anyway, that was fun. So one of the things that I wanted to chat with you a little bit was that our show is called Getting Out of Your Own Way. And I'm just wondering what advice you have for someone to begin to get out of their own way. And
yeah, so the permission, giving yourself permission to be where you are, kind of letting go of the stories that you shouldn't be here and this is a problem. We're making problems all the time that don't have to exist as a problem, right? Like being stuck doesn't have to be a problem. You can be resting, right? Like you can, and also a kind of accepting, bringing in acceptance there. Again, the perspective. It's funny when you said we have tech problems and who knows, like I think about this with time. I mean, I was about to say switched over, like I switched car insurance or something, but I've switched my brain from being so focused on scarcity and lack to being in an abundant mindset, that it's possible that everything that is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and it's fine, and it's working for me, not against me. And time, when that comes up, that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm running late, I'm not going to make it, and like, I've found that if I rest in where I am, all those moments of I'm not going to make it, or I have to cancel this or push this or do whatever, it all works out because I'm looking for it to work out, right? if I have to reschedule a meeting or something, the other person will be like, oh my gosh, that's such a better time for me. Or, I needed to do this thing anyway. And even if it's not, it's almost like, well, okay, that's really not your business. You know what I mean? Like how it works out, and if it's a good or positive thing, like, because it is what it is. It just is. So kind of being where we are and thinking in terms of how worthy and wonderful humans are in general, like very high level, like just think about the power of your eyes or your ability to sense temperature and even sense even more. Like I know exactly where my dog is and probably how she's laying without seeing her. I can sense her in the room, right? I can sense the energy of her and my own energies. And like our human capacity is so big and it's so wonderful. Like there's nothing that we have to do or say or be to be worthy of the things that we desire. And I think that brings me into another point of like, when you're stuck, you're probably withholding desires from yourself or having these stories about how you just can't, and Eeyore about what's not possible. Yes.
It's such a bad day. And then people get surprised that it is.
Yes. If you're looking for all the problems, you are definitely going to find them. Definitely. Because they're everywhere, right? This is human life. It's 50% good, 50% bad. Sometimes it's not those good odds, but we have the power being the other word, I guess.
That is another word. So wonderful. Yes, absolutely. We do have the power.
We have the power. We're the most powerful people in our lives. There's nothing more powerful than us and the way that we think about our lives and ourselves. And so that alone, when you tie that in with your perspective, if you're looking for scarcity, if you're looking for problems, you're going to find them. And knowing that your brain is wired for that naturally is like good news, because, okay, you can change it, right? You can activate neural pathways to be geared towards positive, right? With this prefrontal cortex brain instead of the lizard brain back there. That's like, you think about if someone sneaks up on you, all of your senses go into crazy overdrive. And if that person didn't know they were sneaking up on you, you might like think they're a bad person because they see, because they made this awful thing, this response in you happen. And that's a story, right? This could be a saint behind you. But anyway, like our brains are it's like a 800-pound gorilla in there, like ready to pounce or, so we have these threats.
I was just going to say, it's not really our fault. I mean, we are wired to always assume the negative first. And that's after thousands of years of instinct being sort of born into us. Because
thankfully we can jump when there's we can circumvent that. We don't have to be listening to our lizard brain. But I wanted to jump in for a second and just let our listeners and watchers know that you mentioned another word, and that was perspective. So I think it was power. We talked about perspective, right?
I think we've had all 5 now. So I'm just gonna say them all because I'm gonna help our listeners so that they can throw them in the chat anytime now. And the 5 words that we've talked about today that are special are power, purpose, perspective, permission, and possibility. All P words. So we'll recap again with that in a few minutes. But one of the things that I really was listening to when you were talking about time, and I was reading this fascinating article. Actually, I think it might have even been part of a book by Gay Hendricks, who was talking about the difference between Newtonian time, Newton time, the guy with the apple fell on his head, who thought about gravity, and Einstein time, the theory of relativity. And I mean, these are very difficult, very big concepts, but Newton's time is the time on the clock. And we often run our lives by the time on the clock. And Gay Hendricks talks about Einstein time. And Einstein time is the time that comes from within. That sense of like, I need to do something now, or I want to do something now, and you do it. That sense of I'll give myself 5 more minutes, or I'll give myself a pause between activities, even if it's just a few seconds. And one feels like, there's a whip driving you, and the other feels very empowered. The other feels like you're in control. And it's fascinating. So when you said that, my ears immediately tweaked. And
Yes.
I believe there was a comment that we missed by another Holly who's listening in, and I missed that comment. So maybe Roxy, if you could, there it is. So many people are stuck right now since their rescheduled life was interrupted. Yes. Not sure if many know how to see the lessons. I'm sitting in the uncomfortable, like Holly refers to. How does a human get comfortable with the uncomfortable? What an awesome question, Holly.
Oh, that's Holly Fish. She's my friend, Fish. So when we're in the moment, like it's easy to look back and go, well, that horse thief situation was bad until it was good, like it was a challenge in the moment, but then it's like, we never know, right? You never know how things turn out. And a lot of times when we look back, we can see, oh, that hard time in life really was a gift to perspective, or build these neural pathway muscles to go into your sage thinking, your higher thinking. And I think in the moment when you're in it, you have to kind of lean into that, trust that, that there is something good can come out of it. And if nothing else, you're exercising that thinking that there is possibility to be like blessings to come from something, or lessons, just knowledge is like, that's enough. And it's like lifting doing a bicep curl, right? Just going, okay, I'm just going to practice seeing the good in this. But also, I'd say life is 50-50, and we need to treat it as such. If you're in the bad, like letting it be bad and doing this, like allowing yourself to go, this is hard. And how do I feel? And I don't think that we know how to do that very well. I actually have a meditation freebie going right now that goes through this, like visualizing the stories. I love visualizations for meditation because I get the monkey mind and get thinking instead of being, but visualizing what are my stories and kind of separating yourself from them. You are not those stories. Those stories are just playing in your head, thanks to your reptile brain that has kept us alive as a species, right? So thank you for helping. It's not helpful right now. But knowing this story is the reason you feel stuck, the reason you feel uncomfortable, the reason, and what does that not only like, oh, okay, so I feel uncomfortable, I feel unsatisfied, I feel restless, I feel whatever that Holly may be feeling, like, how does that feel in your body? How does that actually manifest? Like our thoughts and our feelings, we have language to bring them out, but they're all just manifested in a bunch of vibrations in our body that we kind of try to attach language to as best we can to describe them. And so when you go into your body and you say, frustration feels like a jagged, and it's sitting in my chest, or it's, where is it? What's going on? And just be like, kind of like, this is the part where I feel frustration. Here's the frustration. Here it is. Rather than, oh my gosh, I don't want to feel frustrated. I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. Pushing, reacting, avoiding, or whatever we do with our feelings that is not helpful. So
yeah, when you say I am frustrated, you're frustrated.
Yes, you will reinforce that. Yes.
Yeah. So, but there's another little thing I'd love to throw in there for Holly. If And that is, you can always say part of me is frustrated. It's never all of you. It's part of you that's frustrated. And I do a lot of parts work with people, and it's never, the frustration isn't you. It's just a part that is feeling, that needs attention. It needs you exactly what you said. Feel it for a little bit, like putting your hand on a hot stove. You don't need to stay in frustration. You don't need to stay in the pain.
A lot of times you will stay in frustration because you don't go into it. You're pushing it away. And it's like a beach ball in a pool. What happens? Well, it comes right on back, doesn't it? It's like, hey, I'm with you. Hey, I'm with you. When you're just like allowing it to be there and watching it hit you and going, okay, I'm going to reframe this thinking. I'm going to go into that's not true, or I'm not at peace yet, or I am at peace with this frustration just riding along, here we go. But yes, you're right. Hand on a hot stove. You want to push it into the sage mode and get to where you're exploring and empathizing with yourself. Good grief, right? That's so big. And feeling the discomfort is like, yeah, this is uncomfortable because I have this story. So naturally it is. It's okay. I'm doing the best I can with what I have in the moment. There's always, like, life is 50-50. And so anyway, just being where you are, I think, is huge.
Yeah, I think the other piece for Holly is to ensure that she sets an intention about what she actually wants instead of focusing on what she doesn't want. And I always suggest that to my clients. We spend more of our time focused on what we don't want or trying to, make things go right. Like if you focus your time and intention on helping things to go right, you don't get stuck in the what's going wrong.
Well, isn't that so true too with the getting stuck? Because we're trying to control the world and we don't even control ourselves.
There's that mud again.
I know, it's super sticky.
Yeah. Anyway, we are just about out of time for the show. So is there anything that you wanted to share with our guests? I noticed that your information is at the bottom, so you might want to tell our guests a little bit about what they'll find on your website and your website address, and any other thing that you would like to wrap up with.
Yeah. So I have my website, I have blogs and such, but on the homepage, and then if you subscribe to the blog, you'll get this meditation. I'm in a big meditation phase right now. I'm on day 43. I know it's so fun. I love it so much. Anyway, but I really feel like that helps people process where they are so they can move on into their higher purpose and desires. Also on social, I post videos frequently and a lot of sort of short blog posts and things like that there. So
awesome. So if people want to get more of Holly, they can certainly get it at hollyherlocker.com, which is awesome. Thank you so much for being here today, Holly.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I just want to remind guests as well and the listeners that the 5 special words that you were listening for today, if you wrote them down, pop them in the chat or send them by email to headheartsynergy at gmail.com or support@headheartsynergy.com. Either one. And just put in the subject line contest so that I can readily pick them out. And thank you so much for being here, Holly. I'm so excited about our conversation. And for our listeners, this has been Head Heart Synergy, bringing you Edge of Fulfillment. And we're here every Friday from 10 a.m. Eastern Time on W4WN and Talk for TV. And I also would like to invite our listeners and guests, if they would like to join other like-minded people in our Facebook group called Mindfully Moving Forward. That's where we're all hanging out. So remember to drop the 5 special words, and we will see you next week, as I am your host, Lorraine LaPointe, reminding you that midlife awakening means mindfully moving forward beyond the edge of fulfillment. And we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
you.